Hello everybody, and as always let me just quickly check my audio and if everything is going well, especially after, well, a break. Some time has passed since the last time. And it seems Twitch says I'm live. Okay, so before we start, I'm just gonna quickly say what's our plan for today. So today we are going to start a new game, which will be 2.5D platformer, I would say, which is using both 2D and 3D assets. They will all be available on the asset store for free, so there's no problem for you to download it. Hello. And it seems it's okay. Okay, good. I'm just gonna quickly build a new project. I'm just gonna call it 2.5D platformer and run a 3D template. So if you don't have a project yet, make a new one. So just a blank 3D project. As soon as my project builds, I'm just going to switch my screen. Okay. Seems like it's working good. Okay. So let's start from the asset store. We're going to download 3 assets. Hopefully it's gonna go quick. Yep. Okay, so first one is the Sunnyland, the one that we had last time. It's just a really easy and quick to use 2D character with animations. Next up is the Fantasy Skybox, the free version, which is here. It's just literally called Fantasy Skybox Free. Then import it as well. And the third one will be Low Poly Nature Props Pack, which is over here. You can see all the authors over here. Okay, so this usually prompts some alerts here. You can just clear them out and it's gonna be fine. And that's it. That's all we need from the asset store. Now let's just head to the middle of the screen and create a new cube. So let's hit up create a 3D object and a cube. Then just center it, so reset the transform to the middle. And this is going to be our platform, main platform, our ground, let's say. So let's just quickly extend it to like, let's see, let's just go like that. About 12 maybe. Let's just go 12 on the X. Or maybe 13 just for additional measure. Okay, and on the Y-axis we can just leave it like that, and then on the Z-axis we need to spread it to like, I don't know, 5. Yeah, let's go 5. Maybe even more, let's go 8. Okay, so now what we can do is we can add some low poly nature props pack objects. So we can go to prefab, sorry, not prefabs. Actually, how does the prefab work now? FBX is okay. So we can go to FBX folder, and then we have all the props over here. So we can just add some of them to our scene to make it look a little bit better. You can have your game over here so you can actually see. Move the camera a bit so it's easier to see the changes. Like this. Okay, and then let's go back over here. W, F. Just going quick here. And then we can add some trees, some bushes, etc, etc. So let's just make some background over here. So we are using 3D right now, so you can see the shadows as well. They are easily baked by the Unity using the directional light over here. If we rotated it a bit, then we're gonna see the change on the shadow shafts, as you can see. If I did this, like, they are much bigger right now. We can do it like that, so the sun is, you know, coming from the back. I'm just going to leave it like that, like this. Maybe even, you know, change a little bit of the lighting so it's like a little bit darker, you know. It's all up to you. I'm just going to go a little bit like grayish blue because I wanna do a night version. Okay, so let's finish up adding some more bushes and trees and stuff like that. You can also change the size of it. You can just do T and then spread this up, holding shift. Like that, like that. Resize these so they are actually different size. Let's make a little forest of different trees here. So maybe some smaller ones as well. Maybe some rocks. Some bushes here. Just like that. Okay, and then just add some more over here. We can just, there's some trunks. So we can add some bigger trees here. So it, you know, matches a little bit of the theme here. Okay, and this is, oh, this is good. This is what I like it. This is how I like it. Good. Another thing, we can also add some to the foreground over here, so that we can add some rocks, maybe some cacti, maybe some, well, you know, you can add whatever you want, just make it not too big, since we want our character to be visible, obviously. And if we make it too big, it's gonna be hard to, it's gonna be a hard time to see the character up front. So just add it over here. Add some small, maybe bushes, some little small ones, maybe a rock inside of this one. It's actually a nice effect if we rotate it. Not the rock, but this one. Yeah, like this, maybe. So we have some little fun level design to have to play around with. Okay, let's just leave it like this. For me, it's okay. And now we have these skyboxes that we downloaded, Fantasy Skybox free. We can go to materials, and you can see four of these skyboxes. You can see how they look over here. It's like a little preview. We can drag them just into the scene over here, and you're gonna see on the game tab how this looks. They're also changing the color, theme, etc. So this actually has a funny lighting to it. Okay, I'm just gonna leave this one. Actually, yeah, I'll just leave this one. Looks okay. Okay, next up, another thing to do. We're gonna add now the character. So we are going to the project, to Sunnyland, to artwork, sprites, player, and we can get the idle, the first one. Well, you know, as before, we have to select them all, go to pixels per unit, change it to 16 this time. That's I've checked it, it's gonna be okay if we do it 16, and just drag it into the hierarchy to the left here, because if you drag it like this, it's gonna apply to this cube, and this is completely not what we want. So just drag it over here. Then we're gonna center out the view, maybe drag him up a little bit so we can see him. Here's our fox. I'm just gonna move him. Actually, no, we have to leave it on 0. That's the best. And yeah, that's gonna be good. But what we want to do is we want to create additional empty game object here. We can name it environment. And we can drag all these bushes and rocks and trees and trunks into the environment game object, so we can actually hide it over here. So there is not, you know, it doesn't appear over here, every single prefab. Then we can use the rotate tool to rotate the whole thing here. Oh, actually, let's also select the cube as well. You can drag it here into the environment, then drag the environment and move it a little bit. We want it rotated a little bit so it's easier for the camera to see. I'm gonna show you what I mean later. And now go to our character and actually let him be on the ground. So if he's like a little bit too high, we can drag him down a little bit. But he seems he's okay. Oh, because yeah, he's on 1.5. Probably that's where he should be. Okay, good. So in this case, we can see that the foreground here is not well, hiding the player, and also the background is in the background. So that's where it should be. Okay, so next up, next thing we want to do is to allow the player to move. So as before, we're gonna create a little folder here, name it scripts, just for additional organization. Create a new C# script. We can name it player and open it up. Okay, now when we are here, we're going to write down the code. So first up, what we need to do is we need to set a few things for the player to be able to move around. So first up, we can change it, his name just for clearance. Just name it player over here. And then we need to add the tag player. It's usually the best to add it, since you never know if in the code it's gonna be useful. Then we're gonna add some rigid body. Since we are making a 2.5D game, most objects will be in 3D, some will be in 2D, and it's gonna be best if we keep them all in 3D probably. So in my case, I want to keep it 3D, so I'm just going to add the normal rigid body. And the collider will be a box collider, not the box collider 2D, since we are using rigid body 3D. If you have rigid body 2D, then you're gonna go for the box collider 2D, because you cannot mix them up. Okay, now we just resize, oops, not the whole character, but only the collider. Like this, and like this. Now try to flip him and see if it's going to fit, and it's good. Or good enough at least. Actually, I'm just gonna make him a bit shorter here and here. Actually, the opposite. I'm just gonna leave it extended a little bit like that. Okay, good. So now that we have this, we're gonna exit the editing tool here, and we're going to go to the code now. Since we have the rigid body here, we can add it over into the code. So let's write down private rigid body, because we're gonna need it to access the velocity of the player when he's when we want him to move around left and right. So private rigid body RB. Since we can just take it from the component here in the code, we don't have to add it as a public one. So property rigid body RB, and then we're gonna need public float move speed. Yeah, and that's all for now. We're gonna set up our rigid body. So RB equals get component rigid body. Oops. Yep. And then in the update function, we want to check if the player is holding down A or D button. So if input dot get key code dot A, then else if input dot get key if he's using the key code dot D, so key code dot D, and then else. So in another case, when he is not holding any button, then we want him to stop. So there's 3 options here. So if he is holding a button, we want him to have a negative movement speed, since we're moving to the left, and moving to the left usually in this case, it is minus. So you can see on the X over here, if we're gonna change the position to the minus, subtract, then we are moving left. Okay. So RB to velocity equals new vector 3 minus move speed. And remember, while we're using the update function, we wanted to multiply it by time.delta time, since we are using the update, which is not how do you say it? It's not appearing a fixed amount of times. It's just appearing as fast as your computer can. So on faster computers, the character will move faster, and on slower PCs, it's gonna move slower. So we need to multiply it by time.delta time. And just so we can make it easier to just apply a proper movement speed, we can just multiply by 100 as well, since the time.delta time is usually very, very small. So this, and then on the y-axis we want to move him by 0, and 0 on the z-axis as well. Okay, then we can copy this here. We can subtract this minus here. We can also go to else, and then instead of having all this, we're just gonna type 0 instead. So we have 0, 0, 0. Okay, so these are the things here. Now this will allow our player to move, but we also want him to flip the sprite. So private sprite renderer sprite renderer SR, then SR over here, SR equals get component sprite renderer, brackets and a semicolon. And here, if we're moving to the left, so let's see how our character is right now. So if he's not flipped, as you can see, he's not flipped, he's looking to the right. So when we are holding the D button, we want the flipping to be on the x-axis to be false. And if he's moving to the left, ergo on A, then we want him to be flipped. So sr.flipx equals true, and here we want it to be false. So sr.flipx equals false. And if else, we don't want to change it, since we want him to stay whenever he was moving, whenever he was moving left, to stay on stay flipped, and when he was moving to the right, we want him to stay not flipped. It's just much more natural this way. So before we head to play, before we go to play, we want to attach this script here and change the movement speed to like let's say 5. I'm gonna see. Okay, so our player right now is having some troubles. Yep, and this is why we always should remember to do the constraints here. So freeze all these, and we also freeze the whole rotation here, and we also don't want our player to move up and down or back and forth. So y and z axis to be frozen. We are just moving on the x-axis. Also remove the gravity and remove the angular drag. We don't need it. We can also change the collision detection to continuous. It's just going to increase how well the collision detection will work on our character, since it's continuous, not just dynamic. Okay, so we can see we are moving left and right, and we are flipping our character whenever he's moving to the proper side. Good. So now we want to add some animations for the player, since well, animations are very important, makes the game look much better obviously. So let's create a new folder, animations. Let's add an animator here, so animator controller, player. We can also add an animation. Actually, wait. So we're gonna attach this animator to the player. You can see it now. We can go to animation and we can create a clip. So we are in animations. Now we can just add this new clip. So we're gonna add idle. Now the idle was over here. We want to have all these. Drag and drop. Now we can also drag it a little bit out. And let's see. Yep, this is just about right. Okay, good. So this is our animation for the idle. Now let's create a new clip. Just name it run. Go to run over here. Change the pixel per unit to 16 as well. Apply. And now drag and drop as well. Drag them out to match well, your preferences. I want him to move a little bit faster, so I'm just going to try and do it like this maybe. Yeah, this is much better for me. Okay, and so we need to go to the player animator here. Change, oh, actually leave it like this. So the idle is the main, the layer default state. Then we need to make a transition to run and transition from run to idle. Change both to have no exit time and no fixed duration, no transition duration as well. Okay, and both. And now we need to create a parameter, which is a boolean here. This boolean is gonna be called isRunning. And now in this case we want it to be isRunning to be true, and if we are not running, then isRunning will be false. Makes sense. Okay, good. So now we can go back to our script. We can add the animator here, private animator anim. Apply it here as well. So anim equals get component of type animator bracket semicolon. And over here we can set if he is running or not. So anim.setBool is running is true. We can just copy it here. It's gonna be here as well. And then we are not running when he is not holding any of these buttons, so false. In this case, he's just going to move into idle animation. Okay, so let's see if this is working so far. I mean, it should be, but you know, you never know. So he's moving right now, and when we are running around, he is, well, he would be, but over here he has still some exit time and the fixed duration. Okay, now let's see. Yep, this is working now perfectly. So he's moving into the idle state right now. Whenever we are running, he is running to the proper side because we are flipping the animation. Okay, good, perfect. Sorry, the sprite. Good. So we have these two things done. What is next? Next up, we want to create pickables. So entities that our player can run into and gather them. So as for our fox, it will be cherries again. So let's see. We should find them over here. Yep, under items we have the cherry. Unless, okay, let's actually make it 3D. Let's make the pickables 3D now instead. So let's create a sphere over here. We can name it cherry. And then our cherry needs a little material. So let's create a folder. Let's just name it cherry. And in here we want a material, cherry matte. We can change the color of it over here to be like red. Reduce the smoothness a little bit. Otherwise it's just gonna be a strange color. Add a little bit of metallic. Okay, it should be okay. And let's apply it into this sphere here. Okay, it is over here right now, you can see. We want it to be a trigger instead of just a collider. We need to add a rigid body for it. And we need to create a script for the cherry as well. So we can go to scripts, go over here, create a new C# script, name it cherry, and open it up. Well, reload the solution if that's if you need to. And then we can sorry, is my is everything okay? My Twitch got stuck on my phone. Yeah, okay, it's working. Sorry, I was just checking if it's working properly. Okay, so our cherry needs a couple things over here. It needs first off, we need a rigid body reference. So private rigid body RB. We also need a public float speed. And we can just make up the origin. Okay, it's okay. So on the start function, we want to add the RB reference. So RB equals get component of type rigid body, brackets and a semicolon. Then in the update function, we want the cherry to just fall down. So that is we want to add the velocity. So rb.velocity is a new equals new vector 3. Then 0 on the x-axis, the speed over here, which basically would be a negative speed, right? Because we're moving downwards and we want to just set it. Well, I mean, you can set this float to be negative and then not have to add this minus here, but we can also change this so this is like much more clear for the level designer, I believe. Okay, and 0 here on the z-axis as well. So semicolon at the end. Okay, let's go to over here and see if this is going to work. So add the cherry here. We can reset the position of it. So reset. We can now drag it a little bit up. So like let's say 10. And let's see if it's gonna fall down. Oh, the speed is 0. Okay. So let's say 5 maybe. Yep, let's see 5. Okay, it's falling down. Good. But it's falling down indefinitely, so we need to make it so that it will actually break down. So whenever our cube will have a collector script. So let's make a collector script. And we want to see if, so like void on trigger enter collider, was it collider or collision? I think it was collider call. We're gonna see. Otherwise it's just going to break. You're going to break. It's not a big issue. it's okay. Okay, hopefully this is actually the collider. We'll see. So whenever we hit a trigger, right? Whenever there is a trigger, we want to check if it's a cherry. So if call.tag is equals cherry, we also have to set the tag for a cherry. Then we want to break the cherry and subtract 1 point from the player. So subtract 1 player point, because this is a to do thing. And now we can just destroy the cherry. So destroy call.gameObject. Okay, we get it. Good. So let's go back here. We have to add onto this cube, which is our ground. We have to add the collector here. We need to have this box collider, and we also, I believe, we need a rigid body as well. So we're just gonna add it here. No mass, no drag. Collision detection continuous. Freeze all the movements and rotations of our ground. Well, we don't want our ground to move. And yeah, we'll see. The cherry should be able to, oh sorry, no, there is no tag for the cherry yet. So let's go to cherry quickly, change the tag, add tag, cherry, and apply it to the cherry. Okay, now it should happen. Let's see. Yep, it just got destroyed. Good. That was the point. And then on the player, we want to have the same thing for the player. So void on trigger enter collider. What's a collider? Yep, collider. Collider call. And in this case, so add 1 player point, and also destroy the cherry as well. So destroy, sorry, not cherry, but call.gameObject. Okay, so this is it basically. So right now we have a cherry which is falling down. We have a player which we can move, and if it hits the ground, it's going to destroy the object. And if we are going to hit by the fox as a fox, then this cherry will be destroyed as well. Okay, good. We've done some things. We still have a little bit to do, but I'm pretty sure we can make it in the 2 next episodes. So this one, as you know, there was a long break. You probably have to get your head around the programming again. So this episode will be only 33 minutes long. Okay, I hope you'll learn something, and I hope I will see you in the next episode. Yep, goodbye.